Valerie Bagona from the Peconic Estuary Partnership to join us. Valerie is the outreach coordinator, and I guess we're going to get an update on status of Peconic Estuary. Got it.
Not me.
Well, I mean,
You're paid?
It's my agenda.
we have a little time at point. Oh, Valerie, how many years have you now been with them?
For a year and a half.
Year and a half.
Yes.
And a great addition, I may add. Valerie's been instrumental in getting a lot of these projects off the ground and works hand in hand with Joyce on all of these initiatives. So welcome. We had a chance to meet down at South Ferry, which I'm sure you'll talk a little bit about, but you guys were evaluated by the higher ups, I guess, because you're one of a dozen and a half estuaries, I guess, throughout the United States. And yeah, and I think the evaluation went pretty well. So that's,
And what's your role again? The title?
I'm the chairman of the East End government, the local government, actually.
No, you're very involved.
Yeah.
Okay. It's all yours.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate your time. I'm Valerie Bergona. I'm the outreach coordinator for PEP. And yes, as Jim said, we were just evaluated by the EPA once every 5 years. They evaluate us as one of the 28 national estuary programs. We did get a proficient rating, so thank you so much for your help on that site visit. Councilman Culligan was nice enough to meet us at the South Ferry, where we have a USGS continuous monitoring station. It's one of 3 in the estuary, and it allows us to have a more holistic picture of the health of the estuary. So a very neat project that we have here on Shelter Island, and I'll go a little bit into that later.
The very first question they asked, by the way, was what was going on at the school. They went by, when they came down 114, they saw all the work that was being done at school, and I said, that's the, new IA system that's going in at school. They asked some great questions, though. They were a very attentive group.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, it went very well. And yeah, thank you all for, of course, being a very motivated town board. Your local government clearly cares so much about water quality, so we really appreciate having you as partners in these endeavors. Okay, so first I want to just go through a very short list of our many projects that we're working on at any given time. We did recently have a unveiling event of a fish passage project that is, over a decade in the works. It's named after Byron Young, who is a retired DEC fisheries biologist. This particular fish passage is right on the Cranberry Bog. If you are familiar with the area, it's right across from their Riverhead County Center on the Little River, which is a tributary of the Peconic River. It's one of the largest passages of fish that we have currently of these alewives. So Byron was literally taking these fish in buckets and pulling them up off the dam and putting them into the next portion of the run. So now we have a fish passage do that work for him. So it was a great unveiling event. We have an educational sign there as well. Our alewife monitoring, we do this every year. We have citizen scientists go out and observe themselves, and they can report that sightings online. We also have video and pit tag monitoring at both Grangeable Dam and the Woodhull Dam currently. So we have partners at Suffolk County Community College as well as Hofstra University that analyze that data for us. And that is used to then justify these fish passage projects. We had our annual horseshoe crab survey. This is a partnership that we have with many different players, including Cornell Cooperative Extension and the New York State DEC. And we monitor a site at Squires Pond in Hampton Bays.
What time of year do you do that?
So that is typically May and June. Sometimes it extends into July if it's a long season. It depends on water temperature. And then we had a new partnership with Stony Brook University and CTUC, where we had interns looking for otters or signs of otters. It's very rare to actually see them in person, but generally you're out there looking for scat as well as areas that they are hanging out in called latrines. And that was really great. The first visit that I went out with for training the interns, we actually found evidence of otters in a place where it hadn't been recorded before. So some great data from that as well. And that can be used to justify things like wildlife crossings at roads if it's a high density otter area.
We have a young lady on the island that set up some cameras around the island. So we
Yeah.
discovered two places, one at Fresh Pond, right along New York Avenue.
Yeah.
There's an otter down there, and there's another one over in, at least one or more over in Mishamek at a kettle pond. So we know that we have them back here, on the island.
Yes, they're slowly making a comeback. And our partners at CTUC will actually be doing a more holistic wildlife survey of all of Long Island starting this fall that we are helping to fund. And I know there are some places on Shelter Island that they've already looked into and we'll be looking further into. So I'll be happy to share that data when we have it.
Yeah. They have a great video on the PEP thing about the fish spawning. So for years and years and years, there was a threat, couldn't get up into the spawning areas. And now with these aids of enabling them to be able to get up there safely, you see literally thousands and thousands of fish getting to these spawning areas. It's very gratifying to see that, that they've overcome these hurdles, little hurdles for these fish. But it's very successful.
Yes, absolutely. So we released our water quality report for 2022. This is an annual document that we produce. You can find that on our website. It takes from various different water quality monitoring sources and helps to paint a bigger picture of what we need to work on and what specific areas. This is a particularly relevant project that I'll talk a little bit about later on, the Eastern Peconic Blue Carbon site. So this is a new project that we are just about to have like the first stakeholder meeting to start planning this, and we will loop you all in because it is so important geographically to happen in this area. So we will be looping you in for meetings about this, but it's essentially a bipartisan infrastructure law funded project to sequester carbon as well as bioextraction of nutrients in the area.
BIL funds?
Yes, a bipartisan infrastructure law.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You said that.
Yes. We had our 2023 biennial conference, which was really great. Had partners from all different places. We had local government, we had scientists there, we had private business owners, all talking about resilient communities prepared for climate change and celebrating PEP's 30-year anniversary. PEP turned 30 this year. Next, we have our USGS Solute Transport model. We're in the final stages of that project. We had an in-depth meeting on that June 1st. And this is really important. We're showing how things like nitrogen flow, throughout our groundwater. Next, we have some wetland restoration work at Accabonac. And this is a great project to restore the natural hydrology of the area. Broad Cove, this will be another bipartisan infrastructure law funded project. This area, if you're not familiar, is a former duck farm. It's been purchased by Peconic Land Trust. And it will be another site where we look at bioextraction and also have access for the community to enjoy this area. We have our 2023 eelgrass aerial survey underway. We had some issues with this due to the wildfires. And some issues with just weather. So this may actually extend into next year, but it will give a very good picture of where we still have eelgrass, so we can protect that with things like conservation moorings, maybe some more signs to kind of alert boaters about these areas to protect and to avoid. And next we have 3 Mile Harbor. This is a freshwater infiltration sampling completed and PRBs. So these are permeable reactive barriers that they can get things like excess nutrients such as nitrogen out of our waterways. This is something that can be used in tandem with upgrading septic systems. If there's one particular place where there's just such a store of old nitrogen in the area, it can be used to assist in those efforts. And we really want to study the effect of these PRBs to see, kind of analyze if they are cost effective and to see where they work best. So we're putting a lot of effort into the monitoring of this PRB after the installation. Okay, so those were some quick PEP updates. I do want to just focus back on that USGS continuous monitoring station. We had the unveiling event on a very cold day in December.
Really?
Yeah, thank you for those that came out. It is such a great partnership because we have local government involved, obviously, private business owners, federal government and the USGS, as well as PEP. I've reached out to the superintendent of your school here, and we're going to be planning an educational trip for this fall to take the students out, let them know the significance of it. We'll have the USGS out there to explain why it's so important when it comes to studying water quality in the region.
And I have to thank Cliff Clark, by the way, the owner of the, for writing that in the approval statement. So when Cliff gave permission to use the South Ferry, that was a stipulation that he wanted to make sure that the kids in Shelter Island School could directly benefit by getting down there, once a year and just being informed of what's going on, what we're actually monitoring there and how that, how that can be interpreted and used wisely in decision-making moving going forward. That was good.
Absolutely. Okay, so I wanted to go over briefly the 2023 bipartisan infrastructure law projects that PEP will be directing money towards. First, we have that Broad Cove project that I mentioned, which is, again, that would be bioextraction as well as a public access site. We have next the Riverside Wetland Restoration Project. Southampton will receive funds to carry out a concept plan for the eastern wetlands in the Riverside area. And then we will dedicate future funds towards next steps in that project. But for the year 2023, we have $150,000 being directed towards Broad Cove, $100,000 being directed towards the Riverside Wetland Restoration Site. And then this Peconic East Blue Carbon Shoreline Protection Project, we probably need a snazzier name for that. That is what I had mentioned, that will be focused around here in Shelter Island, as well as the North Haven area. And $300,000 would be put towards this project. We have funds dedicated over 2 years, and then we'll be working to leverage those funds and apply for additional grants to carry out this project over the next 10 years. And we have already started work with Stony Brook to utilize combinations of kelp, oysters, and seagrasses to, once again, mitigate climate change, sequester carbon, mitigate ocean acidification, protect shorelines, and improve water quality and clarity from things like excess nitrogen and harmful algal blooms. So we're looking into areas in Menantic Creek as the Shelter Island portion of the area for this project.
When you say you're looking into, what does that entail? Looking into using Menantic Creek?
Sure, so things like preliminary water quality testing and site visits. Dr. Chris Gobler has already been out to the site to do some preliminary site visit work.
I think that he's in touch with the Menantic Creek newly formed association. They've got a couple of monitors out. So yeah, that'd be great if they were working together.
Yes, absolutely. So this is just a map of the general area which we'll be looking to conduct this project. There are a lot of different things that we'll be looking at, whether it's, eelgrass pilot restoration projects, conservation moorings, different types of shellfish, different reef projects. So all of these things will be considered, and we'll have a full scope of work that we'll be prepared to discuss with you, hopefully a little bit later on this year. We'll definitely loop you in those discussions. And yes, once again, we have dedicated $300,000 of that BIL, bipartisan infrastructure law funds, over the next 2 years, and then we'll be looking for additional funding for at least 10 years of this project duration. Okay, so as far as funding goes, from the local East End towns, this is a graph, or a chart rather, of the contributions for 2021 through 2023. So in 2021, Shelter Island had agreed to a 3-year funding contribution for PET based on CPF revenue. And we have 2 requests for the last installment of that, the 2023 contribution of $11,900. And then we are asking all of the towns for a continued contribution to fully match the EPA annual program dollars. So I have another graph on that later on, but you can see the total contribution from the towns in 2023 is $700,000. And the EPA contribution is $850,000, so we're hoping to make those 2 numbers equal.
Is this, those numbers, are those just what we offer, or is that what you suggest? The 21, 2 and 3?
So that is what you had contributed for 2021, 2022. But it was a 3-year agreement, so this is what the program.
So with the new match, the EPA 850, how would that be broken down?
Sure.
Oh, you get
I'll
it.
go back
Oh,
to
okay.
the slide. It's okay.
Oh.
Yeah, we can go try now.
Yeah.
So that would be a total of, for Shelter Island, $14,450 each year over the next 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, this is like directly related to CPF funds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, WQI paid for this at last time.
Okay, yeah,
If you want.
thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
And I did want to go over specifically what the 2021 and 2022 funding was used for. Even though we have all these different funding sources, they are used for, estuary-wide projects, but this specific grant number was used for this alewife project. So we have, various different surveys between citizen science surveys. We have the work that Suffolk County Community College is doing, as well as Hofstra University, all funded through PEP. And they have been able to document fish passage specifically for alewives within the Peconic system. And that investment in that monitoring then allows us to leverage for these large fish passage projects. So just to go over briefly what alewife are and why they're so important. They are a type of river herring. They're a diadromous fish, so they spend most of their life out at sea. And they come into our freshwater bodies to spawn. What?
Similar to salmon, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And they're so important because they are a prey fish for commercial and recreational fishing species, which is, huge tourism and recreational economy for Long Island. It makes up about 70% of Suffolk County's economy, so it's very critical. And I'm sure that you have fishermen in this area. Yes. So we gotta protect alewives.
It's been a long time. Fishermen and shellfish been here on the island.
Oh, okay,
Wasn't
great.
it a banner year this year for alewife? No? I
I'm not sure.
think it was like,
It's not something
Yeah.
I really fish for.
Right.
But it's something we haven't seen a decrease in. I mean, fish kills over the last year show that there's an abundance of them.
yeah,
You get them all jam-packed up into the Peconic Bay up there, up west, and they start dying because lack of oxygen, and it needs a good supply of them. So
right.
Yeah, so this is an issue that it's not necessarily very recent. Around the middle of the last century, things like culverts and dams, even previous to that, dams for things like cranberry bogs have really broken up a lot of the freshwater streams that they use to travel up and spawn. So this is a endeavor that will take time and has been going on for a long time, but they're essential as a primary food source for recreational species like striped bass. And this is a great project. And now we will have better data on exactly how many we're seeing each year. The camera that we put in at Grangeville is very old and it's done a good job, but it doesn't necessarily give the most accurate picture. The camera that's now at Woodhull has fish counting software. It's actually called Salmon Soft, and we'll have just a better, more technical estimate of how many fish exactly are traveling up these freshwater rivers and streams. So really great project, and once again, it's everything from schools, our universities, doing this type of observation work. Then we have citizen scientists going out and doing their own observations. So it's a great way to get everybody on this topic and involved. So yes, this last slide is just that breakdown. Once again, if you all wanted to take a look, we are asking for the commitment of the next 3 years, helping to fund the program. Shelter Island specifically contributing $14,450 a year, so that the local buy-in is the same as that EPA funding. And that's all I have, but I'd be happy to answer any questions. And once again, I'm sorry that Joyce wasn't able to make it today. She did have a conflict that popped up, but I'd be happy to take back any questions to her. And we can also attend a main town board session together if that's something that you all would like as well.
Valerie, do you feel comfortable? One of the big topics, obviously, and Tom would be interested in, can you speak at all about what's being done aimed specifically at Bay Scallops? Who's looking into this? How much effort is being made and looking at the cause and effect? Is there hope? And what's the outlook like? So anything you'd like to share, that would be helpful.
Sure. So we do have a committee that's dedicated towards this Bay Scallop work, and we help to fund scientists at Stony Brook that are looking into the problem. It's something right now where we're still trying to diagnose, what exactly the issue is and how we go about remediating it. So it's definitely something that we're focused on, and hope to have some answers soon. But right now, it's not something that we're working on actively restoring ourselves. Within PEP, more kind of diagnosing the issue and planning for the future. But we do have a Bay Scallop Technical Review Committee. It's open to the public, so if anybody would like to join those meetings, I can send along the invitation for that as well.
Any other question? Well, last week we had a discussion that we got notice from the DEC that they want to close shellfish areas around anchorage areas. Not sure if
Drop the share.
Drop the share.
Just drop the share, yeah, so.
I'm not sure if that's something that the partnership is involved in. We are taking an active role in it tomorrow. Stephen, the town attorney, the town engineer, and the harbor master are meeting with the DEC to discuss it. But I don't know. You have any say in that?
Where specifically did you say?
It's statewide. The DEC is taking a position that 1,000 feet around any anchorage areas should be closed for shell fishing. And, we would like to see it based on science, not on perception. And we're doing the testing ourselves, and we have the science to back up that it's, unneeded. So I don't know, we might be coming to you with some support.
Absolutely, yes. This is the first I'm hearing of it, but I'll definitely pass that information along. I'm not sure, what motivated that, but.
I think it's preemptive on their part.
Okay.
The FDA is demanding it as part of a food safety initiative.
Right.
It's actually the National Shellfish Sanitation Program.
Under the FDA, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think these are the type of things, that we're looking, when we're looking for partnership. I mean, you're one of the obvious groups, the town would come to, for support.
Yes, absolutely. It's very possible that one of my colleagues knows
Right.
about this and I just don't.
Sure.
But I'd be happy to pass it along and have one of them get back.
We can bring it up at tomorrow's meeting, we can ask tomorrow. Can I have a copy of that, but Stephen, just if you can, just make a copy.
Yep.
If I can get some, I know you're meeting tomorrow, but I can get some information.
Valerie, do you have any timeline on when you're going to actually start the active monitoring in Menantic or wherever you decide to set up? I don't think that decision's been made yet, where to set up the monitoring, but.
So we don't have a timeline just yet, but that will be developed over the next couple months, and I'll absolutely get you that information.
Okay, all right, great.
The other thing that I think is when we mentioned Menantic Creek and other water bodies around Shelter Island and around the Peconic Estuary is dredging. Is the fact that a lot of these bodies have sat there for literally decades now undredged. And sediment is built up and built up and built up. And it makes it difficult to keep those areas healthy. And the county always says that they're not looking to take on any additional dredging projects. So they have their hands full just trying to get it done. You know, Cockles Harbor entrance, which they do every year now with a mechanical dredge 4 years in a row, followed by a hydraulic dredge. And they spend upwards of several $1 million in a decade to get that accomplished. But we have other water bodies here that are starving for dredging. And I know it's difficult. What do you do with the dredged material? Because that's an issue. You're going in, dredge it, you put it on a barge. Where do you take it? Where do you empty it? So I think that would be something that, again, something that PEP might want to look into, because the people that live along these areas, they talk about going back 20 years or so, and the shellfish and everything that were actively involved in there, fishing off the backs of their docks, that's non-existent now. You know, literally these bodies have filled up with sediment, and they're almost not even, you can't navigate them anymore. They're so shallow. So they're not flushing properly, and it's impacting the entire habitat from that area.
So what area specifically?
Menantic Creek would be high on the list, very high on the list of areas of real concern. And we have brought up, I'll say, it's not a problem that's going to be solved overnight. I would love to have scientists look at, where Shell Beach is down the southwest corner of the island. It's right near West Neck Harbor. Well, that leads into West Neck Creek, which leads into West Neck Bay. All these water bodies used to be very, very healthy water bodies, especially for shellfish. And the thought of it was, it used to be an island. You used to drive out, you used to walk out partially, and then there was quite an opening, a large opened area, which flushed up and down. It was in a direct line almost with the creek, which helped bring a better flushing of the bay and the creek. We've often looked at, maybe thinking about people get very spoiled. They want to use the whole Shell Beach. But what would be wrong with taking something like a cove or a huge one with a bridge type of thing, maybe a series of several of them, in the spot which once was opened, which we have now filled in with a wall, a brick, literally a stone wall, a gabion wall, which goes about 700 feet, which prevents that from ever happening. So that's another project that I know it's kind of an expensive project, but it's something that merits somebody looking at. Would it be justifiable to spend, $5 million to open that up and do it properly? Would the dividends pay, for decades following? Would that help in terms of flushing those areas? Those are concerns that people in Shelter Island have. And of course, we're working on Real Point as well. Real Point, we were just denied, the Army Corps of Engineers went down and, we basically did not get selected for what we were looking to get selected for. We based that on $1.8 billion worth of assets inside inside the harbor. They're more concerned about wildlife habitat, restoration of the shoreline, natural shorelines, and we're interested in that as well. So we're resubmitting that back into the Army Corps of Engineers because that piece of property, that 2,000-foot spit, is very, very important in terms of protecting what we have inside of Cockles Harbor. I just talked to Joe Fenora, our town engineer, about this before I went home for lunch. And he said, Jimmy, the reason we're up against New York City, we're up against large projects that the Army Corps is involved with, which involves billions and billions of dollars, on these huge projects. Your project is minuscule and doesn't score high in terms of preventing overwash. but your project could score much better in another category. So what I'm asking the town board to do is maybe we would resubmit. We have. Joe and I addressed the 4 questions the Army Corps had. We sent them back, and we would like to focus on more of the wildlife habitat and those things in order to get some grant funding to help us, better protect that area, especially the eastern shoreline. So those are real concerns that we have here on Shelter Island.
Absolutely. I imagine you'll score higher than New York City when it comes to wildlife and habitat. I will say, as far as you had mentioned some like culvert and dredging projects. Well, I can't speak on like the feasibility of these projects here currently. We will be having at our next local government committee meeting in the fall, the DEC is going to come back and talk about their hydrodynamic study that they did. So we had heard some preliminary findings, but they're going to talk a little bit more about like the feasibility and effectiveness of different types of these projects to flush out, water bodies in different areas. So just educationally, that will be good to hear. And if you ever want to join our local government committee meetings, please do. But I will bring this information back to Joyce and the rest of the staff.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I could real quick, I brought this up.
You need to come up to the
Tom needs
microphone.
the podium now.
I brought this up before to the town when the work was committee. Is it possible for Pep to help us with a project to determine what the tidal flow is and how the tide moves in a given area? I know the Southampton town did this, and they used it in correlation with their seeding program, and the outcome was just phenomenal. They got the clam seed to drop exactly where they wanted to, and they have a boom in hard shell clams right there. Wonder if that's something maybe the PEP can help us get some sort of program like that, so when we drop seed in an area, we know that it's gonna benefit, the most benefit there is. Is that something that you can help with, or is that something?
I can definitely ask. I wish I could just grade my projects myself, but I'm not in that position just yet.
I'm not sure who it was in Southampton, it happened a few years ago, but the result was phenomenal. They've got a real boom in hard shell clams.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to find out,
I mean, they're done,
did the study for
they're done by noon, and they have,
I will follow up on that tomorrow, Tom, because Joyce has made it a point to say, money is not endless. So they want high dividends. So apparently this is a major success story.
Yeah, it was.
What went into that? What made that such a great spot? And when you go throughout the estuary, are there other places around the estuary that have similar types of properties that would support?
That's exactly.
That's basically what we're looking for. And that's what they're doing, in terms of shellfish restoration.
Biggest bang for the buck.
Yeah, they're not just, experimenting. They're doing their homework, dotting the i's and crossing the t's, and getting all the data first before they say, this is a high probability area, rather than dump all of this stuff in low probability areas. That's what she's trying to get maximum return. And I think that's something that Joyce has talked about in the past.
Okay, yeah, great.
What specific water bodies are you interested in?
Well, I was thinking Cockles Harbor right off the bat. If we're gonna put efforts into Cockles Harbor, such as, creating an oyster reef in one spot, we'd want that seed from the oyster reef to travel to where we want it to drop.
and we seed every year, so it'd be
if you.
smart to put it where it in the best,
Yeah, because it takes X amount of time before it falls again,
Right.
once the spat is in the area. So I'm just thinking maybe we could plan it better and.
Good point, Tom.
I think,
Benefit.
and I'll end on this, I think that investment that the town board made, that $250,000 that we made was
That's with Cornell Cooperative Extension.
right, with Cornell Cooperative Extension. The data that we get from that in the fall on this, based on this actually second year, but first year of this massive effort, needs to be shared with PEP, because we're all in the same business. We're all, regardless of what organization, we're not in competition with one another. we're trying to solve the problem together. So I think the sharing of that data is extremely, extremely important so that, we can find out what's working, what's not working.
So Jim, you're going to follow up to find out who did that study for Southampton?
Yes.
Okay, great, that'd be great, because then maybe we could bring it to WQI as well.
Yeah.
As
Thank you.
a funding
I
source.
think that would be a critical move,
Yeah,
and I think that the bang for buck there,
Yeah.
just having that information alone would really
right.
set us in a good place.
Tom, what's the name of the place in Southampton that?
I believe they did it in, Ponquag Bay. It was to the, Ponquag, the Ponquag Bridge. It was that bay right there where the Ponquag is, not Tiana, but the other one closer to the Shinnecock.
Right, isn't that where also they get a good scallop harvest or no?
They did, they
Yeah.
had a good scallop year there last
Yeah,
year as well, and
yeah.
I think it's looking up for them this year as well.
Yeah, so like, we want to know.
Yeah, the amount of eelgrass coming through Shinnecock is just unbelievable. We just can't believe it. It's clogging up our ice machine.
Wow.
It's really, there's a lot of eelgrass over there right now, yeah.
Let's have good nitrate concentration.
The other thing I would urge PEP to do, take people like Tom, get names of people who work these waters and get feedback from them. It almost should be like, if it wasn't much trouble for them, month by month, just jot down some observations that you're making.
One that we've made right now is in Wade's Beach, the current, going into the current
Right.
there in Dickerson Creek.
Yep.
There's eelgrass rolling up on the beach there. Don't know where it's from, but it's there.
Yeah,
And it's recent eelgrass.
yeah.
There is something going on there.
Getting these guys are out on water every day.
Yeah.
So getting that feedback from shellfishermen from all 5 East End towns would be a really valuable kinds of thing. That kind of feedback, just to have somebody log that stuff in once a month, just on what's happening, what they're observing would be very valuable, I think. You don't have to pay for it, it's there. They're helping by taking the initiative to do it. Somebody's just got to gather that information, put it together, and make some heads or tails out of it.
Yeah, we're more than happy to do our part to get it,
Yeah.
whatever we can to make things better.
Right,
Like you said, we're all in it together.
right.
Keeping information to one group is not helping anything, so
Exactly.
throw it all on the table
Right.
and attack it. Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.
Valerie, thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Valerie.
Thanks for having me.
See you tomorrow.
Okay, next on the agenda is the WAC request for WQI to pay for the center water testing. We have a town board meeting tonight, and we're going to set the hearing to approve this. Any comments from anybody on this one?
Yes, I can speak to this one. So we had 167 people respond, and this is regarding the water testing of people's wells within that red triangle. So it's something that we've been working on for a little while. People had about a month to sign up for it. We had 167 people respond. And so it was presented to WQI at their last meeting. And they agreed to pay to have the water testing done, which is excellent. It's $89 per test, and there's 167 tests, so it's a total of $14,863. The original proposal that we received from Goldman Water Testing didn't include them scheduling all the testing. It was something we were going to do, but since then, I've discussed it with them, and they're going to take on the scheduling as well. And they're not going to do that at an additional charge.
Great.
So it's great, the price is going to stay the same, and they're going to do all the coordinating with the homeowners for the testing.
And what's the name of that company?
Goldman, it's GNS Mermaid and Goldman Water Testing. And so they're going to try to schedule all the testing before the end of August. And so we should have results sometime in the middle of September, hopefully.
And Meg, I know confidentiality was a concern.
Yes.
So how are you going to do that with the report?
So what I've created is a spreadsheet and a map. So let me see if I can pull up, I have,
Her map's awesome.
my map
She
is
did-
awesome.
she did
I'm
the
very proud of my map.
watersheds, and then divvied it up. Oh, it's
All
very
right.
good. It's going to give us some,
Geeky.
yeah, we're going to have some great information from this, based on just the mapping.
While you're bringing that up, Amber, we need to adjust that resolution. WQI had approved $14,774, but it's within our purview as town board, that we
Yes.
can adjust that amount.
And I did send out the email
Just
to
to get a
the
sense of the
WQI to let them know that missed one when I was counting. And so they agreed that the 167 number was fine as opposed to the 166 number. So I have their approval as well. All right, so I will share my screen with you so you can see the triangle. Here we go. So this is the area of the island that we're testing, this red triangle area. You'll notice I have dark blue lines that kind of zigzag through. Those are watershed lines. So there's kind of one big watershed that kind of goes through the middle and kind of curves. That all goes towards Cockles Harbor. And then you have this area, my mouse right here. This area here goes down towards Mananic Creek and West Neck Creek. This area kind of goes towards Gardner's Creek. So does this one up top. So what I did was I took this red triangle, the watersheds, and I divided it up into 13 areas based on watershed directionality and neighborhoods, so that we'd be able to get a better understanding of what these areas are doing.
Meg, before you go into this, could you just explain what the red triangle is?
So the red triangle is an area that was identified a little while ago by both Suffolk County Department of Health when they did their sub-watersheds wastewater management plan, and John Cronin, when he looked at data from the Suffolk County Department of Health, I believe, on water testing. And this is an area that was thought to be high in nitrate levels, just in ambient groundwater nitrate levels from just using traditional septic systems over the years. So this is the area that we were targeting to get more recent, up-to-date information on what the water quality is actually. So I took the triangle and I broke it down into these 13 areas, and it will help us understand what's happening in these different regions based on the direction of flow that the watersheds are going to give off. So, you know, for example, I know this red triangle, this area, kind of where it says Commander Cody's here, this looks very large. It looks like a huge space, but a lot of that's just the horse farm. So it's actually open space. So once I broke it down, it kind of gave pretty even numbers as to the number of people who signed up in each area. So it should be a good representation.
So the idea is that that's how the data is going to be reported public to us and public.
It'll be reported, you know, area one, we received so
Right.
many samples, and these are the values of the samples, with no identifying information
Right.
as to the property or the owner.
But it should be
So,
very informative for us and Joe.
right, and it'll say, you know, region 2, 9 samples, that's the data. Region 3, 8 samples, that's the data, however it breaks down. And so that's the way we're going to receive it from the water testing company. So we will never have a copy of the data matched to a homeowner. So we will get the data blind, but we'll be able to make kind of a heat map of where we have higher concentrations. And so it will really help us moving forward as we make some decisions about, you know, what kind of infrastructure we need, what's the best way to handle some of the situations we're dealing with when it comes to high nitrates in the groundwater or potability issues, things like that. So yeah, that's essentially what I've got.
That's the one with all the flags on it?
No,
No, because that might be identifying.
exactly.
Oh, okay.
It's a reason I'm not
It's just
sharing
impressive
that.
that it
I know.
just, so many.
Well, it's 167 people,
Yeah.
and they're very well spread out
Yeah.
through the triangle. We got about a 40% return rate on our mailing, which was
Incredible.
awesome. So I'm like geeking out inside, and I'm very excited to see
Yeah.
how it all pans out.
And then WQI is also working on a mailer, so when the homeowners get their results, they will have just further,
Oh, it's
Either
already
way.
done.
yeah, oh, okay.
And it's going to go in with the results.
Yes,
Right.
so that way
Postcard, right.
homeowners will like be reminded, like
Yes.
if you know, want to install an IA system voluntarily, there's county, state, and town
And
grants.
we'll help you do the,
And we'll the concierge
The
service.
concierge service, and in red, the postcard, thanks to Julia Weissenberg's suggestion, the heading is clean water is one flush away. Install your IA system today.
So the way it'll work is Goldman will set up all the testing with the homeowners. They'll go, they'll sample the water, they'll run all the lab tests, and then they will mail the homeowners directly a copy of their full lab report. And with that, we're gonna put a cover letter explaining what the results mean. That way, people understand what they're getting. And so, we'll probably have different levels based on different results. If you're in this range, it's this. If you're in this range, it's that. Just so that everybody kind of understands what they're looking at when they get it back. And so, we don't want, if someone gets a poor result, we don't want them to freak out, but understand what all their options are. So that'll be fun and exciting. And then once all the lab results come in, they'll put all the information on a spreadsheet, and we'll just get a spreadsheet back that just has all the data for us.
The bottom line on this thing is, as Meg said, we have over 200 IA systems in the ground now, in excess of 200. And a vast majority of them, 8 was the old number, it could be different now, was estimated at 86% of them were outside the triangle. Only 14% were inside the triangle. Now, if you obviously get those numbers back up, and let's say you get to 400 in the ground, and now we start to get 30, 35, 40% of the ones installed on Shelter Island inside the triangle, everybody benefits. Not just the people living in the triangle, but everybody on the outside of the triangle will benefit over the course of decades. So
Creek, for example.
Everybody will benefit because that water flows in all different directions. So, even though the town is focusing its energy now and putting the money where the mouth is, so to speak, and concentrating on this area, the ramification is going to benefit everybody that lives here over the course of time, because we're going to clean up the center of town, and that is going to permeate out to the edges. So you have to applaud the effort that these people have gone through, you guys and the committees have gone through to get this kind of return, which is kind of unheard of in surveys today, that you get this kind of volunteerism, but should be great results, and hopefully, this will drive decision-making for town boards for the next decade. It'll be a focal point for the future town boards.
Well, I think also it gives, if we find a consistent problem throughout the area or in part of the area, it gives the people involved there a voice,
Yes.
a way to petition the future
does.
town boards to say,
Yes.
we need help.
How about me?
We need potable water.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Another thing that's come up recently in BJ and I meeting with all the different homeowners associations is we've met with Silver Beach and we met with the Mananac Peninsula. And a concern that keeps coming up, especially in those two areas, or at least it's been voiced to me, is they're experiencing more instances of saltwater intrusion into their wells. And so I know WAC has discussed maybe doing this type of sampling again, but in other areas. So, I'm thinking about possibly trying to, depending on how this whole thing goes, as long as everything goes smoothly and it gives us information we can really work with, considering doing it for some of those areas, some of those nearshore areas that are experiencing saltwater intrusion, like Montclair and parts of Silver Beach, just to get some kind of baseline there, because a lot of it's like hearsay, or one or two people, or then you start to listen to more people and they're like, well, I already moved my well because the first one was salted, and then I've already, so it would be nice to kind of have a baseline for just how far in the saltwater intrusion is occurring, and then in a few years test again and see if it's moved forward anymore. So some of these baseline studies might be helpful to have.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
That is a great point with saltwater intrusion, because in my experience here of 17 summers, you can almost set your watch by the taste of the water. Water tastes great from October through June. Actually, sometimes into early July, it's okay. But you notice a difference in the taste of the water from the second week in July, right on through late September, until we start getting some moisture and some rain back in the ground. It just, it happens. The demand is, and a place like Silver Beach where they're building more new homes and homes are getting larger and more people are living year round, the demand for water is, the handwriting's on the wall. So I love the second portion of what you just said. I think the people in Silver Beach, that community where I live, would be very, very open to that. I think you'd get a great response.
And just having the information is helpful when it comes to developing educational programs and helping people increase their awareness of how they're using their water and what their conservation methods could be. And just, kind of spreading the word and getting people involved and interested in it. The more you know, kind of, I think the better, the better your choices. So,
Hey, thanks, Meg.
you're welcome.
Okay, we'll go around the table and we'll start with Meg.
Okay. Give me the book. So let's see, what did I have? Well, we had the Manana Peninsula Association meeting on Saturday, and I think that went really well.
With
And we're-
what a.
It was a great
engaged
meeting.
group of people,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's part
We're
of,
worried about water.
yeah, it's part of our comp plan tour.
Unrehearsed.
Yeah, they had some really good suggestions. Their big concern was saltwater intrusion and salting of their wells. But there was also some good notes about maintaining our town landings and our access points, making sure that we're keeping them clear and functional. And so that was something that got brought up a few times. Someone mentioned to me a public restroom on Shell Beach because it's so far out there that people use it all day long, but there's no place to use the bathroom. So that's something to think about, I think. But those were kind of their big things. And, also kind of like a notification system from the town to help people informed. And I explained to them that we did already approve upgrading the website, and with that would come a notification process, and it would help people, get the agenda so they could keep up. And we also reminded them that, you also have to read those emails and you have to, read the agenda. We can't actually just download it into your brain. So I think it was a really good meeting, and every time we go to one of these meetings, we learn something new.
Yeah.
And so I'm really enjoying them. They also had, concerns about the herbicides and pesticides in the near shore. We explained that the DEC has sole jurisdiction and we can't really do that, but we can do educational campaigns.
I thought a really good point brought up, Meg, was so that, we have mentioned more than once that 40% of a neighborhood, a block, define an area as you will. Suffolk County, if 40% of them want water, Suffolk County, as of right, will come in and bring water. That's the kind of rule. But 20% if 20% of you have non-potable water, that's the level. You don't need 40%. You could do 20%. But the response from the crowd there was, well, but how would we get that started? Like, how do we need leadership, or guidance from the town in terms of getting it, calling a meeting, about water and do you want it and all of that. So I just thought I'd throw that out there, that was brought up, that they don't think that they could organize themselves if needed. And I'm pretty sure I wasn't getting an overwhelming feeling that it was needed now, but soon. If they need water, how do they really go about it? It would be helpful if there was certainly one activist among them who, took the torch and led the parade.
What we're finding though, and like Fresh Pond's a perfect example of it, the Fresh Pond Neighbors Association, the people live around the pond, actively involved in that, not just turning it over to the town, but actually taking ownership. So places like
Manatee Creek. Yeah.
Shell Beach, we do have neighborhood associations. They are well organized. They have I don't know if the town of Shelter Islands, it's there to be of assistance to those neighborhood associations. And what's the role of the Shelter Island Association? They oversee all these associations.
Right.
So maybe in future town governments, they want to work a little bit more closely with the Shelter Island Association in terms of providing some type of direction, leadership of how neighborhood associations should function in terms of hey, you guys just successfully went out there and got 140, whatever it was, responses here. In a community like Silver Beach, there's only 200 people that live down there. So, and believe me, with salt intrusion, it's impacting a good percentage of them. Only, again, it's not, but it's getting there. It's progressing over and over and over again. So I think that even that comment from the people across the way about putting a bathroom on Shell Beach, there's a plus and there's a minus to that. But when you really think about the number of people using the water, it's 4 to 1. If you have 40 boats out there, at 4 people a boat, that's 160 people. You don't have 40 people on the beach at any one time. Have I ever been down there where I've seen 40 people planted on beach blankets? And you may see 20, 25, but you'll see 40 boats with 3 or 4 people on each boat. My major concern with that is that bathroom issue needs to be addressed and enforced on the water, as opposed to the people that are sitting on a beach for a couple hours and say, I got my bike, they drive back down the block, go to the bathroom, and that's what we do. Got the truck down there, they hop in the truck, they come back, go to the bathroom, they come back down to the beach.
Right.
That's what people do. That they don't.
We can, and come
They're
back.
close enough, because most of the people go to beaches close by them.
Yeah.
No.
Needless to say, that's the money ask for WQI, and they've agreed to it. So there's a reso tonight to approve,
Perfect.
well, to set the public hearing
Yes.
for that, which will be at the September,
No, August.
August 29th. August 29th is when we'll have the hearing.
I would like to make a suggestion that we adjourn the public session for a legal advice session, because the person who is coming has a short timetable.
Okay.
And then we would reconvene.
But before we do that, I think, why don't we just open it up to Tommy, because he came to.
Okay.
Tom, you want to speak?
Yeah, actually, if I could, I'd like to, the Bayman had a meeting, not recent Sunday, but the Sunday before last. And our main topic for discussion was the shellfish closures. I know that the town is up in arms about it, as well as we are. I came because I have to unfortunately deliver what the Bayman had to say. Now, I tried to leave the meeting with the words that the Bayman will request this from the town. Unfortunately, I was told under no circumstances was I to use the word request, and the word to be used was demand. So the Bayman we've hit our point. We are demanding that the town board, what's the proper word, fight these closures, and the authority of the DEC and any other entity to make such closures in our township. We have a Nichols patent, and we want to see it reinforced here under these circumstances. The other thing was that while this is being debated or taken care of, so to speak, the Bayman want to see the 2 transient anchorages in West Neck and Cockles Harbor, we want to see them closed immediately until this is resolved and the town board can take control over the closing of our shellfish lands.
They also closed a mooring field.
Well, the thing is that I actually spoke to John about this earlier. The Bayman are not fighting Cockles Harbor Marina.
Okay.
The Bayman are fighting the DEC and other entities that are trying to impose their will upon us. And so that is the reason we are not attacking Cockles Harbor mooring field. We realize that Cockles Harbor didn't do this to us. That mooring field has not changed in decades since it was created, as far as I know. Our main objective is to fight the DEC and to stop them from encroaching on what we believe is our given right to control these things. Now, that's what the Bayman have had to say, and I'm here for feedback.
At the direction of the town board, I wrote a letter to the woman who issued the closure. and let her know that, you know, we're gonna try to work with you, but simultaneously, we're requesting that you lift these closures based on our empirical data, that the water is clean. So we had, Christina, when did we send that out? That letter
I thought it was a week
the
ago.
last week.
A week ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a week ago, so.
Yeah, I realize it's all new, this is.
and there's a
all
meeting
just
scheduled,
And there's a meeting scheduled tomorrow.
tomorrow.
so,
Is that here, or is that with you guys?
DEC representatives, we're meeting with to try to expedite this process.
so we're on, so I think I would suggest that we take a little bit of a time and not close the anchorages while you get, you know, since this is moving fast.
Yeah,
That
that's.
it might not, you know, you do that and undo that and do that, you know, that's not any way to run a country.
I'm just trying to deliver
Yeah,
the message,
But-
and we are very firmly,
right,
adamantly
yeah,
ticked right off. We've
Right.
had enough.
No, absolutely, and so
And-
we'll have some information for you tomorrow.
We do want to
Yeah.
thank the town board for acting as they have so far. We do see that, I've explained to them that, yes, the chatter has been ongoing and very deliberate, and
every meeting,
appreciate that.
yeah.
So, the only other thing I'd like to say real quick is Christina asked for an update on the section 108. I believe there was a miscommunication there. We were kind of waiting for an updated version from you or from the town, so that we could.
What was the objection to the original? Was there, I thought we had had it, I thought we had nailed it. I thought we had nailed
That
it.
there was additional stuff that was going into it. We
Yeah.
didn't discuss this all, so there should be notes or something.
Yeah, well,
If you want to meet together, we can get.
yeah, that's
together.
fine. So we're gonna set the public hearing on what we already drafted. So we want to get this done for you.
Yeah, because we need an updated copy. The draft that I got the other day was from 2/7.
Okay, I don't know, is that the one that's,
Yeah, we've discussed that a lot since then, so there should be additions to it.
all right, I'll work it out with you, but.
Yeah, by all
again,
means, give me a call.
Yeah, we want to get this thing
Yeah.
done for you,
Yeah.
all right?
We can always tweak it
So we
after.
said,
as
so we
well.
will set the public hearing this evening, and then in 3 weeks' time, if we could get
We'd
everybody.
like to see the updated version before you set a public hearing. What we've seen so far is something that was discussed back in January, February. And we've discussed it numerous times since then.
No, but Tom, I'll make sure the version is correct, but we drafted something, we met with you guys, we sat around the table, we made changes, and then when we were ready to set the public hearing, you asked for a couple more things or clarification or whatever.
Yeah, that's
So-
that's I think where we're at.
So,
Yeah.
in the main, what you wanted is incorporated in that, but we'll have to, I'll work with you on.
Okay.
And so Amber, maybe we take it off of this agenda, put it on for the next one, and we'll make sure.
Because I reviewed that, and then I actually reviewed it next to a copy that I had, and this was all stuff that there was additions to it after that. I think it was 2/7 or 2/9 was the addition I have. That was the draft that I had a copy of, and that was also the draft that Christina had sent me via email.
Okay, so we'll
Website.
Get together again.
That makes good sense. And also what makes good sense is what I would ask is, with this meeting with the DEC tomorrow, since Tom, you seem to be the spokesman for the Bayman, you know, getting the message back without going into great detail, following these updates, can we supply Tom with like a weekly update on what would, you know, so he sees these guys on a daily basis. Maybe we just give him.
We'll report on it at the next work session.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Yeah, give
okay.
you some chance to actually gain some
Yeah,
information.
yeah,
I understand that it's real beginning stages here, and that's why we're just trying to,
All right, so if
a
that's
little bit of
it,
space will help you guys as well get this.
good.
All right, thank you very much.
We heard you loud and clear, Tom.
Thank you very much.
Should we adjourn the meeting or just close it, because getting everybody back?
Right,
there
we just-
Yeah, there's nothing else on the agenda, it's just going around the town.
You know, can wait till next week.
We want to ask for any public comments or?
Just, so next week, we are expecting to have a public, just want to make this announcement, next week, we're
Coming in
expecting
on?
to have a public
Enforcement.
presentation about the comp plan. So I think if anybody's interested in that topic, by all means, tune into the
Work session?
next Tuesday. That's our plan,
Yeah, BFJ is scheduled to be at the
Yeah.
work session next week.
okay?
And maybe at 6 o'clock, we can just open with anybody who wanted to comment on the work
Yes.
session.
Okay.
All right. Very good.
All right, so we're gonna close the meeting, go into executive session, and we're gonna have a town board meeting tonight at 6
You didn't
p.m.
have executive session, I mean, you had it.
No, it's illegal, it's illegal.
It's illegal.
Yeah, he
Legal
misspoke,
and legal.
going into legal advice.
Okay.